because in this program it's pretty simple. Anyone but Andrews is our cry, it's our creed, we say it every single evening. Obviously not the Greens, but you get my point. But I want to show you just an example of just, again, how politics works in this country and how normal people get screwed over because they don't have a Twitter handle. Remember the $15 million that was found miraculously by the Victorian government, despite being an extra $1.8 billion in debt from just earlier this year? They were able to find the money that was withdrawn because Twitter went crazy about Gina Rinehart and netball. $15 million. Now, according to some opinion polls, most people believe it won't result in any change in people actually visiting, and it's all overtly political. But I want to give you an idea of when the government turns around and says, we've got no extra money, so sorry, we can't help you. I've just explained that at the federal level, but what about this at the state level? There is an organisation that is going to close. It takes care of young people, and it takes care of young people with mental health services. It's across the Yarra Ranges, and they help people face-to-face, on the phone, and a whole bunch of things. This is at a time when, by the way, 38.9% of people either had delayed or did not see someone they needed when it comes to mental health support. That's from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, that far right-wing think tank. So these people, when they actually got to people, they helped. How much did they want? $1,160,000. They asked the Victorian government and they were told no. They asked the federal government and they were told no. That's $3.5 million over 3 years, but there's $15 million on the table right now for netball. Now, inevitably, when Daniel Andrews wins and all the media people get to slap themselves on the back and laugh at people like me for bringing up the problems with his government, they'll, of course, say this was a magnificent strategy because social media was right, and as long as we had enough of the ABC and the I Stand With Dan crowd, then everything's hunky-dory. But here's the reality. There is an organisation that I'd never heard of until today who asked for money and were told no. And there was another organisation who didn't ask for money, didn't need the money, but got the money because Twitter didn't like where the money was coming from. Another example about how this bloke slithers his way around Australian politics and keeps being rewarded for it. I get it. I'm on the losing side. But remember when Daniel Andrews made quite the virtue over the idea that he's going to have 1,500 different dispensaries for sanitary products for women. They will be free to anyone in the state.
Today is about taking the next step, doing the right thing and making sure that women and girls, not just at school, but right across the community, can have access to the period products that they need completely free of charge.
I'm not going to jump on the landmine. I don't care about this announcement, but what I don't care about this announcement in terms of whether I'd make or not. Just again, people run off to the principle very quickly these days. But it's some of the packaging around all of this. And remember, most people, they're busy, they're cooking dinner, they've got other things going on, they don't pay attention to every little detail that goes along here. But people were led to believe that that was Daniel Andrews' idea, that it was his idea a couple of days out from the election, in part to fix his apparent problem with women who are very distressed about the damage that's been done to their families as a result of the world's longest lockdowns. Well, guess what? It wasn't his idea. In fact, the idea was so well regarded that the person who was responsible for it was recently named the Victorian Australian of the Year.
The 2021 Australian of the Year for Victoria is Donna Stolzenberg.
Now, she's happy with the policy, but she went to social media to talk about exactly how the Andrews government works. Remember, their great idea, she'd been doing it for ages, where, of course, they have to constantly ask and beg for funding from a government that's got money for netball, but not for the mental health service, some for hers, but not enough. It's incredibly disappointing, hurtful and insulting for Premier Andrews to claim providing free pads and tampons was his own idea. On the morning of his announcement, we were contacted by Premier Daniel Andrews' office to ask if we would make a statement about the announcement and how important it is that we support people experiencing period poverty. Of course, we said yes. And we did a piece to camera for the Channel 7 News. We only asked for one small favour in return, and that would be to have the incredible work of the charity mentioned so we could share amongst our group as a way of saying thank you to everyone who's volunteered, donated and done anything in the way to help people experiencing period poverty. We were told no. The press release was already signed off on. It couldn't be altered. But they would try and give us a mention at another time. Surprise, surprise, that never happened. So we know what we're headed to on Saturday. We know what the hot take will be on Sunday. But normal people who actually do the hard work get steamrolled by this bloke, because politics and political power is always more important than people that are actually helping people on the ground. Now, I repeat, that person that I just read who got angry about the packaging of all of this supports the idea, supports the policy. Again, I don't have a problem with the policy, but think about that. Think about the mental health service that's going to shut down, the kids who suffer, but the Premier was able to get the cameras to turn up to firstly his announcement, and then the Premier's office organised for the news, the independent organisation, to come out and support them. That's how they work, that's how they play, and they'll win. Unless you, Victoria, have a different idea. Let's see what happens on Saturday.